Hi folks, so this is a little video on the preface and the support and information for the advanced section of the Maggio trumpet system. I've already done a little video in which I talked about the preface, and I listened back to it and I thought, it doesn't really say much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cover a lot of the information very, very quickly so we can get into warm-up C and D and get straight into the lessons. The preface itself pretty much relates to the first 5 lessons and the 2 warm-ups. And Callum Macbeth's words here say that it's a 5-week period. I suppose it could be, depending on how well and quickly you progress with that and at what stage you're playing you are. And it may be that you don't even have to go through all of the lessons to get what you're looking for from the Maggio technique. And that could be said for the whole system from 1 through to 10. When it starts getting into the latter sections of the study, so lessons 6 through to 10, it looks a little bit more like a kind of generic practice system, albeit we stay in the pedal register. In fact, we're going to the double pedal register as well. But there's a little bit more focus on flexibilities, and the information is pretty much reiterated as is from the first section. So our embouchure position and pretty much what we have to do in terms of our setup. So the first of the teaching aids is about the whistle approach, so setting up that kind of... In the initial section, he talks about the kind of type position where we have the forward set embouchure, or supportive embouchure as well. And really that's a kind of given in the general Maggio technique. And I think most of us would agree that that is a general advantageous setup for trumpet playing in terms of the support of the mouthpiece and our teeth and our lips and everything else. The whistle, if you do happen to get a copy of this system and you run through these teaching aids, there's a couple of things in here that I don't really always agree with, but it may be in terms of how Maggio or Carlton Macbeth has given us this information, how it's been written down, how it's been not translated but inferred, etc., and in terms of context as well. So quickly running through this first one, and the whistle approach says place the mouthpiece under the nose. This is section 3, okay, in the forward position. Move down to 2/3 upper and 1/3 lower. Keep the chin up. Aim the bell of the horn slightly down. Pump the air and buzz down towards the cleft of the chin. Now, I don't play like that, okay? But if you look at the picture of the monkey on the front of this system, or this version of the system, that's how the monkey's playing. Or that's the position of the embouchure. So it's very much kind of like... Now, I don't play like that. I'm a very much straight on player. This is how I look when I play. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean to say that that's wrong. It's just how you interpret this information. Should I put my phone on silent? And it's very, very much down to a personal... I think, setup and how we play. So we got downstream players, we know this. We got upstream players, and I'm very much a straight ahead player, etc. So when you're looking at these teaching aids for yourself, I shall certainly include this whole section at the end of this video. It'll just be the usual with the PDFs at the end, and they'll just be on the screen for a couple of seconds. You can pause and read them, etc. And as we go through, we've got the nose breath. The information there doesn't really change whatsoever. There's a couple of sections here going on. So this is teaching aid 3, where some of the information in terms of what is actually in exercises 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 doesn't appear to relate to the teaching aids. This is one example here. So it says, this is 3, shadings, dynamics. These exercises must be played with beauty and feeling. This is Maggio's words. So then it says, Louis Maggio spoke much of shadings in his techniques. He said one must always play beautiful and musical. That's a given, yeah. Even though they are simple exercises, I purposely left out dynamics in the first 5-week course in order to allow the student to concentrate on developing the basic principles of blowing. In these studies, as a general rule, play full through the horn at all volumes. That last sentence is Louis Maggio. I believe the previous part is from Carlton Macbeth. But there's no real reference to dynamics in lessons 6 through 10 anyway. So I think taking this in the context of a nice clean sound, I think in my mind the fullest sound you can get at as soft a dynamic as possible within reason is kind of what we're striving for. And either side of that is musicality. And if you can get as big and a full a sound as possible with a minimal effort, then surely that's kind of where we all want to be in terms of stamina, in terms of how nice it is to listen. Just to slightly sidestep, there's a fantastic lecture, lesson, whatever you want to call it, masterclass from the amazing Maynard Ferguson, and he talks about working in lead range by playing, paraphrasing here obviously, like a ballad, and then taking that ballad up a minor third and a minor third, etc. And obviously you're going to get to like an octave above where you started. But once that sound starts to become really kind of leady and screechy, etc., then we're losing the beauty of the sound of the instrument. And that in itself is a very, very good lesson. And I think there's shades of that in Maggio's lesson as well. Because that's what he talks about. He says we want the notes to sing. You want them to kind of really be full. You don't want them to be like harsh and screechy. So moving on, that's number 3. Double pedal C. We haven't looked at a double pedal C yet. You're just about to go into warm-up C that I've already recorded. And we get our access into the double pedal register there. And I had to record a little video over the top. I was thinking, how do we get into the double pedal C? Anyway, you'll see that when you watch that warm-up. And it talks about being really, really relaxed. So I think once you've got your pedal C fully, properly nailed, then on open position, then descending from there is really just moving in through the valves. Once you get down to the middle part of that double pedal register, like from the F sharp downwards, then it really is about hearing the pitch, just blowing through the open embouchure, the open throat, and everything being really fully relaxed, so that when you get to that double pedal C, it is as resonant as the pedal C should be. And obviously that's, again, what we want to carry on through the range. So different attacks. This part is one of the most interesting, I think, in terms of the teaching aids leading into the advanced section. So number 5 in the teaching aids is different attacks in the advanced section. So there are different attacks that Louis Maggio taught, and these were ta, te, ti, and tsh, or tsh. Open to interpretation there. This is the basic attack that was used in the first 5 lessons. It's crisp and rather delicate. I would not disagree with that entirely, but then we've got the tha, the, thi, and th, or th. This attack is well known among Maggio students. It troughs the air out in a softer fashion and is used in legato phrases, passages. Okay, I'll come back to that in a wee second. Da, de, di, and dish, or dich. This attack is the most heaviest of all. It creates a very, very hard tongue, and like the other attacks, has its place in modern music. Now, I think depending on how you think about your tongue and what it does at the tip is a very, very personal, a personal feeling about, I suppose, what you do to create that sound. I think I went around in circles there. But in terms of how I play, the accent on the start of a note, for me, really, really much comes from air and how much air I'm putting behind that. Yeah, I can play like a nice soft note. So whether or not I would say that's a tha, the, or th, etc. I don't agree with that myself personally. It's certainly not obviously a. But the way that I'm controlling that difference in the attack at the start of the note is air. So I would suggest that the harder air, or the harder of the more energy you build up behind the tongue, is going to dictate the start of the note in terms of the accent in the phrase. You're not going to build up loads of like energy behind a ballad note to go. really, really hard. It's really, really hard to do that, to have lots of air. So the different attacks thing, I think, is a good suggestion and is very, very interesting. But I think that's something that you can explore through all different types of music. In the Maggio system, I would say, yeah, explore it through the full range of the system. But for me, I don't change really the tongue position in terms of a ta, tha, or da whatsoever. For me, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. For me, it's more to do with how I manage the air for that. The double and triple tongue, we have things coming up. We have some semi-quavers down in the pedal range. We have triplet arpeggios. In those exercises, there's no real inference as to whether they should all be tongued or slurred. So again, this is probably something that you could explore on your own. I'll try and get into that a little bit on the lessons. So what does he say here? When Louis introduced me to the double tongue and triple tongue, he gave me some very, very basic approaches. Practice the weak syllable independently of the ka. Typical ka ka ka, ke ki ki until it's as strong as the ta. Play very slowly and in exact time so to develop the motion of the tongue. Reverse the order for therapeutic purposes. For example, double tongue, ka ta ka ta ka. Triple tongue, ka ta ta ka ta ta ka ta ta. It's quite tricky. And accent on the downbeat. Apply these principles to the lessons, to lesson 8 for the double tongue. Oh, there we go. I missed that before. And the double tongue, and to lessons 6 and 10 for the triple tongue. I did just totally miss this. I've read this loads of times. As we play in different registers, the syllable will change. Obviously, ka, ta, ke, te, ki, ti, ki. So that's quite a hard thing to practice. Now, if you're got whatever study books that you're working on as well, so top of the list is always Arbin. Okay, that's just like an absolute brutal book to work through. It's a fantastic book. If you're going to condense that down, then you can apply all these things to Schlossberg. Obviously, of course, you can apply it to your Clark. Pretty much anything that's out there, you can apply this to. Oh, I should have seen that before. Apply these principles to lesson 8 for the double tongue, and to lessons 6 and 10 for the triple tongue. There you go. I've learned something as well from my own lessons. Flexibility. A great amount of flexibility can be acquired through the use of the Maggio system by knowing upon what to concentrate. Exercises should be played with these thoughts in mind. 1. Thoroughly support each note or interval change with air, air, air. So now that comes down to, again, it's an interpretation of where you feel your air. For me, it's kind of where the rib cage just kind of ends in that area there. Generally becomes more tense, sounds a little bit kind of negative or not quite as positive as it could sound, but supported, I think, and trying to think about that sit-up feeling if you do crunchies or whatever it is, just to give something to bounce off. When you breathe in, when I breathe in, even for a lower note, a little bit of support there will really help that just flow in and flow out of the air. Syllables should coordinate with the interval change. That's our basic Maggio practice. Lips should always be in a forward, closed position, also relaxed. So I think just so that doesn't muddy the waters, for me, that is just basically the resting M position. So just kind of and ready to go. So the walking exercise, this one almost should have its own lesson with me walking along a country lane or something all by itself. This one's pretty cool. And this is very, very, without going through the whole written thing here, as you're walking along, try this, taking a breath in for like 4 counts, letting out for 4 counts, and then extending that. Okay, in fact, I think I will do a separate little walk through on this. So extending your breath in and out and in and out. So if you start off at 4 in and 4 out, then you're extending all the way up to 8 in and 8 out, and having quite a definite exhale as well as the inhale to try and really flex those intercostal muscles and everything, just to get a feeling of really kind of controlling your air. It's not about blowing really hard, it's about controlling the air. If you have a copy or go in search of Larry Miliano's book called Chops, he does a section in this as well. I think I should have checked that first. Pretty sure he does. And if you're walking around, you can do this anywhere, on your way to the bus or the shops, or if you're just out for a walk or whatever. The next one, playing in time. This is a kind of given. There are Maggio lessons as we go on through 6 through to 10, where we talk about using the metronome. I'm a huge advocate of the metronome anyway, and I really do need to keep myself in check with the metronome. If I listen back to myself improvising, etc., then it's like time is one of the things that really lets me down. And this happens in section playing as well. So bringing this back into the practice arena for absolutely anything is really good and heartily recommended. Okay, so and then there's a little review that finishes off where it talks about taking the breath like a drowning man again, etc., and it just kind of reiterates over the procedure to preparation to play. And that's pretty much it. So I have tried to get that through that as quickly as possible, and I've noticed that YouTube has been throwing up some interesting subtitles as well. Okay, and I hope that kind of opens up a little bit of what's going to be happening with the advanced lessons as they come. That's all for now. Enjoy Warm Up C. It's coming straight after this video. If you click the link, I'll try and link it into the end of the video. And that's it. Okay, enjoy the advanced Maggio section that's coming up, folks. It's really good fun. There's some proper hard stuff in it. As always, stay safe, stay smart, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.